now. Okay, so what we're going to learn here is when we say the words biodiversity, so it means that we're talking about biology. Okay, so it means bio here means a living organism, and diversity means that how much different we have, how much diverse in terms of our living organism in one ecosystem. Okay, so basically here is biodiversity can be defined as a degree of variations of life form in an ecosystem. Okay, in an ecosystem. So very, very important here is because we're going to study them in 3 levels. First, ecosystem diversity, second, species diversity, and third, genetic diversity. So means that they are inclusive in this case. When talk about ecosystem diversity, means that each ecosystem will have their species diversity. Each species also will have their own genetic diversity. So means that when you talk about ecosystem diversity, you have to include the species diversity and genetic diversity together. So they are inclusive in this case. Are you clear? They are inclusive. Okay. But if you look at species diversity, then you have to include genetic diversity. Can I say that? Because it's included here, genetic diversity, then it is standalone. Okay. So highlight this part when the question asks you, okay, explain the biodiversity in 3 levels. So what we're going to talk about here. So first thing, the largest scope here will be ecosystem diversity. So what we look at the various ecosystem that exist in a country or the whole world in general. So it can be a variety of in terms of habitats, biotic community, and ecological process in the terrestrial, marine, and other environment in a particular area. Okay, and each area may have their endemic species. Now, what's mean endemic species? So some species that only you can get it at particular regions of the world. Let's say, for example, particularly when we talk about these Australia, right? You have kangaroo. I don't talk about, that means we transport the kangaroo to the zoo or in Malaysia. No, I mean in nature, in wild. You won't see kangaroo. You go into the tropical rainforest, you won't see kangaroo, koala bear there, right? So we say endemic. Are you clear? That's endemic. Like for example, like orangutan. Orangutan, endemic species for Southeast Asia. You won't see orangutan in China, okay, in the wild, okay, or in Australia, in Africa. For example, lions in Africa. Can I say that? You won't see lion in the jungle of Malaysia because they live in the what we call it, the savanna grassland. So that is what we call the ecosystem diversity. So we have 2 main ones. We have terrestrial and also the marine ecosystem. Terrestrial, we have the tropical rainforest, for example, Borneo Islands, Amazon basins in Brazil. We have hot tropical grasslands, for example, the savanna, sub-Saharans in Africa continents. We have very arid these deserts such as Sahara deserts. Okay, we do have marine ecosystem. Let's say, for example, Australia, we have this Great Barrier Reef, coral reef. We have mangrove forests. Okay, those will have their unique ecosystem. Can I see that? So in the whole world, we don't have one ecosystem, but we have a variety of the ecosystem. So that's why we term them as ecosystem diversity. Okay. So each ecosystem will have their unique species. So we don't have one only species or 2 species only, but we have many, many species. So we have the species diversity. Species diversity, actually, we talk about the species richness. Okay, how rich or how, what are the number and the abundance, evenness of the abundance. Now, evenness here doesn't mean that every species must have the same number, but evenness means that we don't want to have one species relatively in small number, too small, okay, too extreme, we don't want, okay, basically even in terms of the number, okay. So we have the high diversity, particularly in a tropical rainforest, but sometimes we do have the pine forest in the Florida or the temperate forest in the Canada, where they're dominated by few 3 species only. So if you compare these two, high diversity and low diversity, which one more stable? Definitely high diversity will be more stable. Are you clear? So the more species they are, and more evenly the distributions in terms of number of organism, okay, then the greater the diversity, and therefore the particular ecosystem are more stable. Okay. So how we link this species diversity to the genetic diversity? Then we look at abundance. So just now I said that I don't want to have one or two of them or small number, because when the number of organisms is small, means that the gene pool is small. You try to imagine here, if you have many species, many organisms, okay, abundance is high. So when the abundance is high, I mean the number is high, then means that more phenotypes. You try to imagine the rabbits. If I have 10 rabbits compared to one rabbit, 10 rabbit, I may have the brown rabbit, I may have the white rabbit, I may have the orange, agouti, so different form. So therefore, we have more genetic diversity. If you compare one or two, they may have one only, I mean, a phenotype. Can you see that? So it means that the higher number then contribute to the gene pool and also genetic diversity. So it's a diversity of the allele, okay? Diversity of the allele within a gene of a genome of a single species. So if you look at the data here, okay, so high diversity has been observed in the Asian tiger mosquito in the Reunion Islands. So the average number of allele per population varying about 4.7 to 5.9. Now, what does this mean? Number allele per locus. If you look at this, if I have dominant allele and recessive allele, so this is 2 allele per gene locus. Are you clear? 2 allele only. But you can see that average you have 4.7 to 5, means 5 to 6 alleles per gene locus. So means that they will have high diversity. Are you clear? High diversity. So what does mean low diversity? Low diversity always can be found in the cultivated plants where we promote the inbreeding and also the homozygosity. Can you see that? For example, if you look at the cultivated plants, Arabica coffee plants, the cultivated one, okay, you can see that less polymorphic. Less polymorphic means that the number of allele per gene locus, okay, number of allele per gene locus also termed as polymorphism. Are you clear? So polymorphism is measured by how many allele per gene locus. The higher the number of allele per gene locus means that more polymorphic. Are you clear? So if you compare, okay, those cultivated coffee, Arabica, okay, coffee, Arabica coffee in Latins and the Central America is less polymorphic than the origin in the Utopia. Because when you say cultivations, cultivate means that we choose the desired characteristics. Okay, I want this to continue, so I don't care others. So it may lead to the less genetic diversity because homozygosity. Okay, and in this case, you can see that Utopians Arabica coffee has averaged about 5.9 allele per locus, about 6 different allele per gene locus compared to the cultivated 3.5. So that's why low in terms of the diversity. So when low in terms of diversity means that they share genetic weak spot. So inbreeding depressions will take place. So if a number is low, when the number is low, the abundance here is low. What happened? Abundance low means that inbreeding will take place. So over a long period of time, inbreeding depression take place. Therefore, the particular population won't be able to survive if there is a change in the environmental factors. Are you clear? Okay, so we're going to look at this again in terms of abundance when we do have the human activity that interfere with their survival. For example, deforestation, habitats fragmentation, when we build the route across the jungle. So split them into two, split them into a small habitat. What will happen? We're going to look at the threats to the biodiversity in the next subtopics. Okay, so with this, I have done for the biodiversity at 3 different levels. So tomorrow, we're going to look at this, the importance of maintaining biodiversity and what are the threats to the biodiversity tomorrow. Okay, so with this, I've done for today.